It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show.
Hello and welcome to Health in the Real World. I'm Chris Janke, joined today by Moshe Moskowitz. And today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. Today's September 11th, and we're going to talk about what happened 21 years ago, September 11th, 2001. Specifically, Moshe, you were there. You lived in New York, right? First of all, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's always great to be here, Chris. Thank you.
And
I actually lived in Hoboken at the time. I was working in New York.
Okay, working in New York. Got it. So, I was in college. I was in LA. I saw, what everyone saw on the news. I've heard from several of my friends and clients about their experience.
Right.
For example, one of my clients worked there and she was looking at the World Trade Center on fire. She turned away for 1 second. She looked back and it was gone. She didn't see it actually fall. It just disappeared. I would love, again, 21 years later, it's one of those things where everyone's going to remember exactly where they were on that day. So take us through, first introduce yourself, give us a little background about you, and then we can get into your story.
Thank you so much, Chris. Again, thank you for being here. It's always good to connect with you. So Moshe Moskowitz, I live in Bergenfield, New Jersey, with my wonderful wife and 4 kids. I guess it's a long journey. I know, give you a quick synopsis of my life. I guess if I have to summarize a few sentences, a few highlights of my life. I grew up not religious, became religious later in life, married, family. I worked in finance for, 15, 20 years in one capacity or another until the last 4 years, last 2 years focusing on online fitness with Jump Into Shape. And 9/11 is one of those days that obviously everyone in the world was impacted. And on a personal level, I was impacted. To this day, consciously and subconsciously, my drive to do anything in life, I think, is really comes from 9/11. So I'll just tell you a story. So I was working in Hoboken, and I worked for Fuji Bank on the 79th floor of the second World Trade Center. And actually, I think it was the 79th through the 85th, more or less. It took up 4 or 5 floors. And when I tell the story, usually I'm in front of a school, and I always ask them, how many planes? When I started telling the story, kids were actually alive, 2, 3 years old. Now a lot of times I tell a story, and none of the kids are even alive because it's been so long. So I always say, how many planes crashed that day? And usually I get 3 or 4. 3 or 4. Yeah, most people know 2. Then they know Washington D.C. Not so sure that they know about the one that they took down. So it's always interesting to ask that question. And I understand, because the focus, is not on that forever. But we shouldn't forget the passengers on the 4th plane, of course. So a few things when I tell a story that you just have to think for a second is that the way we view terrorism is a function of that day, at least in America. In America, today, if you are at the mall, and you heard a large bang sound, unfortunately, your first thought might be terrorism. On 9/11, that didn't happen. That was a function of that day. Before that day, that's why I preface it, because when I tell you a story, you're going to say, you heard a large bang. Of course there was terrorism. Why would you think there was anything else? Because that's only after that day. And the other thing is that, just to understand how high 79 floors up is, a few months before 9/11, I was at work early, and someone was like, you have to come to the window. You have to check this out. Every so often, we have this amazing thing where the clouds were actually below us, and you could see the shadows of the towers on the clouds.
Wow.
Yeah, and I tell people that, I said, I didn't take a picture of it. They're like, why not? I'm like, well, 21 years ago, your calculator, your cell phone, your camera, your flashlight, and your Rolodex were all 6 different items.
Right.
And it wasn't all on a phone. They were
Right.
all, and your TV was on a different item.
Yes.
It was I didn't carry around my camera with me, everything was not on a phone. So, but again, that just tells you how high up 79 floors is. It's very, very high. And so that day started, I got to work early as I usually did. I was actually in the center computers, looking for a job when this happened. And we heard a large bang. And that was when the plane hit the other building. And even our building shook, But again, we didn't know where it was. I mean, I think people said maybe a small plane, but it wasn't. No one thought terrorism. That wasn't our initial thought. Then, we realized. Well, at least I remember. I looked outside, and you said you're in college, so I don't think they have these anymore. You ever remember like these ticker tape parades they used to have, like in New York?
Yep.
Like when the 86 Mets won the World Series.
Yep.
So now I mentioned that to someone. They said, "What's a ticker tape parade?" So for the younger audiences, in the big cities at least, I think they used to have, when the teams won the championship, they would put them on a motorcade and they would go down the city and they throw off all this like shredded paper off the roofs. So I remember looking outside and I saw it looked like a ticker tape parade, but there was like fire like attached to some of the paper, and that was the result of the plane hitting the other building and the paper was just flying in the air. So I remember seeing that. Again, wasn't thinking terrorism at this point, not at all. Then there was a guy, really an angel, literally an angel. His name is James Outerbridge, and I'll tell you more about him as the story progresses. So he worked at World Trade Center. He was there. I'm sorry, he worked at Fuji Bank. He was there for the first. That's another factor. The younger generation doesn't know that this is the second time the World Trade Center was attacked. They attacked them once in '93. I think it was '93.
Yeah, the bomb in the basement, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they did like HBO or Showtime special, my friend told me, and two things that were significant. They said that they tried to bomb the basement, and they were hoping that one building would fall into another building. And at the end, they had one of the masterminds, I think they call him the blind sheep, and he was like waving his finger and said, "We're gonna get them. We're not done. We're not done here." So that's the way I heard it. I haven't checked, but so I remember. So Mr. Outerbridge, he worked there during the first trade center as well, and I didn't know at the time, but he actually saw the plane go into the other building, and he went floor to floor of Fuji Bank where I worked, saying, "Leave now, leave now." He was telling everyone to leave, that we have to leave at this point. And we went, but we walked like, like it was a fire drill. Like it was a fire drill. Like no one was running, no one was, but I heard a very interesting thing. I don't know if many people picked up on it. When we got to and this is allusion to the first trade center. Yeah. When we got to the stairwell, someone said, "At least the lights are on this time." Because the first trade center, they had to exit 90, all the floors in the dark. Because the electricity was cut. So I heard someone say, "At least the lights are on this time." And we're walking, and again, we're at the 79th floor, and we're walking. We get to the 40th floor. And this part, some people know, some people don't know. And the only announcement the Port Authority made that day, the official announcement of the Port Authority, was when I was on the 44th floor. They said, "Building 1 has a fire, Building 2 is safe, you can return to your desks."
Oh, wow.
And you never heard that before?
No.
So, I was just telling this the other day, and they're like, "Of course, we heard that." I said, most people didn't know that. And I worked with a woman, Alicia Levin, who, what I heard, she was on the base, she was down in the lobby, she heard that announcement, she went up to get her purse, and she called her parents, and that's where she was when the plane hit. Wow. So, I personally, I get chills now even talking about it. I exited the stairwell, I walked over to the elevator, and I debated going up. Obviously, if I went up, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I did not go up. God told me not to go. I didn't go. Maybe I just didn't want to feel like working that day. I said I'm leaving, and I got back on the stairwell. Again, that was the 44th floor. When I got to the 33rd floor is when the plane went through my company. If you watch the videos, that if you had, I don't recommend necessarily watching. I personally have a custom. I like to watch them on 9/11. Just keep the memory alive, etc. So the first plane went in more straight. Second plane went in more diagonal. So the second plane pretty much took out the 6, 7 floors of my company. The second plane went through the 79th floor, I think 17 minutes after I left. So literally 17 minutes after I left, the plane went in. And the force of the plane hitting the building, I don't know, planes go 400 or 500 miles per hour. I don't know if this one was going at full speed, whatever. It hit the building. There was a lot of noise. I fell over. For half a second, I really thought I was dead. Because back to what I was talking about before, I had thought at that point, the first thing that went to my head was that one building was falling into the other. Because that had gone to my head, to my friend. And I thought for sure, like, I know I was alive. And so at that point, again, I wasn't religious at that point. I was clean shaven. I wasn't wearing a yarmulke. And I had a flashback to when I was in Hebrew school, I guess 20 years before that. And there's it's not prayer, it's more like a declaration called the Shema, pretty much saying that God is one. And when I learned that, again, I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, I don't know. And they said that this declaration, Jews for centuries, years, have had it on their lips as they die. This is what they say, So those 6 words, I just kept repeating them the whole way down. The whole time I kept repeating these 6 words. And I got down, as we got lower and lower to the floor, we saw more and more firemen coming up, and I'm sure many of them never came down again. But as we were going down, they were going up. And it's also, just to put you in the mindset of someone in the building that day, that I really believe people on the outside knew more than people on the inside. Because we didn't have iPhones. We weren't watching what was going on our phone. We had, cell comms. We had stupid phones, whatever they're called, and you had no idea. Most of them didn't have service. Service is going in and out. So, like, my parents are home watching the building on fire.
Oh my God.
They're wondering if I'm going to get out, but I'm not seeing that. I'm just walking down. I'm not seeing everything that's going on. So the perspective on the inside was a lot different than the outside. And I remember as I got to the bottom floor, I got a call from my best friend. He's been my best friend since kindergarten, now going on like 40 plus years. And he actually, when I took the job, he actually told me, he said, you're crazy. That's the #1 terrorist target in the world. You should not work there. And I said, what do you do? You're crazy. You're not going to do anything. So anyway, as I got to the bottom floor, my phone rings. Again, the service is going in and out. And I answered, it's him. He's calling for me from California. And he said, something happened at towers. You have to leave. And I said, I'm on the way out now. I meant like I was on the bottom floor about to go out. And he thought that I was like just leaving at that point. So we lost connection. So he thought I didn't make it out. Because, I'm on the way out now. It has different meanings. So it took a few hours for me to realize I was still alive. I mean, also just along those lines, I worked with someone who was on his honeymoon in Hawaii. So the time change, I think the way he told me the story, he woke up in the middle of the night, like half awake, half asleep, turns on the news, and they were just, they were showing 2 clips. Plane goes into the building and buildings fall. They weren't elaborating that there was a lot of time in between. Mm-hmm. So he's on his honeymoon, he's waking up in the middle of the night, he's like, everyone I work with is dead. He's like, it turns out like the friends I had in the work, we all happened to be safe. I think I was like the only one in the building. They were all at different bank meetings, whatever. So anyway, I get out, and I remember, thank God, I remember that, I'll take a step back. That first thing I hear when we get out is that people are jumping. There's a large crowd of people on the street, mm-hmm. and they say people up there jumping. Yeah. And I remember, that's not something I want to see. Like, I don't want to have this in my mind forever. Of course, next day, stupid newspaper, that was New York newspaper, the next day, front page, someone in midair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know who does this stuff. Anyway, people are crazy. Anyway, but so I remember I don't want to look. I did, though. I said, you know what? I want to have, like, for some reason, I want to hold on to something. I want to take a quick look and just look up and see, like, the holes in the building. So for half a second, not even half a second, I turned up, just looked up. I just want to see those 2 holes in the building. Just for some reason, I was like, I want to hold on to that. I guess, realize that this was historic. There's just something going on here. And, I did. I get that little vision in my head. And I kept walking. And I got across the street. And I also tell people this, for people of the younger generation, I went to a payphone. People don't know what a payphone is. But I went to a payphone. And there's a long lines of people there, people calling. And I was just like, listen, I was up there. I was on the second floor. My family doesn't know where I am. I need to use this phone right now. And they let me go front of the line. I got in touch with, I got the operator on the line. I said, I was on the second floor. I said, do not get off this phone until you get in touch with someone from my family or their work. I got in touch with someone from my mother's office. They spread the word, etc., etc. And then, I'll finish the first part of the story, and then there's the aftermath, the effect of it. So the first part of the story, then I didn't know where to go. I only have one relative in New York. My uncle lives on the Upper East Side, so I figured I'll go there. And walking through the city that day, I mean, there were so many rumors. I don't know where you were. You were watching TV, or you were in like public?
Well, so yeah, throughout the day, then we went to classes, in college, and nobody was speaking. It was like a ghost town. Nobody was speaking. Nobody was saying hi to each other. We were just all like in our own little
Wow.
worlds. Like, what just happened? This is so weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it shook everyone. It's crazy. Moshe,
Well, let me just finish.
yeah, I'm seeing we're running short of time, and I don't want to cut this short, but
You what time do you have till?
there's 4 more minutes. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So I'll give you the summary then. I'll give you the summary. So I got to the Upper East Side. I got safe. But really, the powerful, I think, the part of the story is that living through such an experience, it's taught me a few lessons. So I'll summarize with this. What are the lessons? A few lessons. One is that every day matters. That is really, you never know when you're going to die. So I really try and maximize every day. I try to sleep as low as possible. I try to utilize my time. I try not to waste my time. I try to realize that, our time is finite and you don't know when to end.
Yeah.
So to make the most of it. I've definitely used the time to strengthen my relationship with God. But probably the number one reason I became religious, and I realized that God has a plan and He's in charge of everything. And again, I trust Him, and I trust He's led me on this path, and He'll lead me on every other path. Also, I guess two more lessons is just not to take anything for granted. That to be thankful for everything.
Yeah.
Everything's a gift. Every minute's a gift. Every relationship. And also just to try to be the best person I can. That you could acquire all the wealth and the material things you want, but one of the most, I can do this, and they say one of the most amazing things you could acquire is, they say, a shem tov, a good name, which is a good reputation. So I mean, those are kind of there's more to talk about, but I'd say if I summarize it, that would be some of the lessons I learned from that day.
Wow. Yeah, and that's amazing. Those lessons have carried through 2 decades later, and just that was very formative experience. That's incredible. You were right there. The plane literally hit right where your job.
You do your own research. You went through Fuji Bank. Yeah.
Man,
So,
that is
and
incredible.
to this day, I have so much. The guy who saved us, originally there was a rumor that he won't be contacted, and I didn't contact him until the 10-year anniversary. And I just reached out to him, like, you saved my life, thank you. And we're, to this day we have a close relationship. I contact him on 9/11, I call him, but more importantly, every time we have a major event, we've had 2 major wedding anniversaries, 2 bar mitzvahs. Him and his wife are the guest of honor. At every event we have, like, God willing, when we marry off our kids, every invitation we say that they're the guest of honor, because without him, I wouldn't be here either.
Right. Wow, that's incredible. And for him, this is another lesson that for him, he probably didn't think twice about it. He just did what he believed was right, and didn't necessarily realize in that moment how big that would be, that he's saving potentially hundreds of lives, by going level to level, announcing, you guys got to get out of here. Man, incredible. Well, I think like you, where you said you watch video every year just to remember, like, because we as humans have a tendency to forget things and to forget, what has formed us. And I think remembering without, you don't necessarily have to relive trauma if, but reliving, just reminding ourselves, I think it's great.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on, sharing your story. And
Thank you for having me once again.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Moshe Moskowitz, jump into shape, previous podcast guest. Again, thank you for sharing your story on 9/11.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.